It wasn't pretty, but a win's a win, and they're on to the next. Harburg's 2-0 as the starter, and Nebraska's undefeated at home. So, if you're looking for a reason to believe, they just gave you two. The plan was to run the ball hard and to get better at stopping teams like Illinois and Iowa from running it down their throat. And to this point, they've been great at both. The secondary is looking for consistency against the pass, and it feels like the special teams has as many negative moments as they do positive ones. So there's still a lot of work to be done in all three phases to be competitive against the rest of the schedule. But we've seen flashes all over the field. So today, we'll talk about the good, the bad, and the truth about Matt Rhule's first team now that they've played 4 games. But what's up, guys? I'm Connor Hayden, and this is Corn Crazed. If you're a fan of Nebraska or the Big Ten, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos I drop. And if you want a live guest interview this week, hit the like button and help us get to 1,000. But now, let's get into it.
Thompson winds up, goes deep, got a man, touchdown!
Last week, the injury news was season ending. This week, we're just hoping they get enough time to heal up in time for Saturday. Rhule said Luke Reimer is going to be listed as questionable leading up to Michigan, and now Harburg's dealing with some issue, but they don't know much about his status yet. If you saw Jeff Sims on the sideline after his one play against Louisiana Tech, then you saw he was still limping a little. So who knows how long it's going to be until he's back to 100%. The offense desperately needs a QB who can run if they want to score any points this week, so I'm paying close attention to any news about those two, because if they've got a limit either as a runner, the offense is going to have some major issues. Luke Reimer's a huge piece on defense, and even though Javen Wright, Nick Henrich, and John Bullock are all playing well, Reimer's the best of the group, and losing him would hurt when you've got to face a dual-threat QB with two of the best running backs in the Big Ten. I think we all left the Louisiana Tech game feeling a little funny. Yeah, they won, and we're all happy with that, but it just felt kind of and I guess the word I'm looking for is underwhelming. Some of the penalties were annoying, and letting those guys come up with so many big plays was painful to watch, but there were some positives too, and I'm not going to let that get overlooked just because I've got some unrealistic goals. So let's start off with the good. And first, it's that the QB run game is for real. And thank God it is, because Anthony Grant's great, but he's going to need help if he's going to make it through these next 8 games. Jeff Sims averaged almost 5.5 yards a carry on 29 total runs in the first 2 games. Harburg averages 6.5 yards a carry and went for 98 and 157 these last 2 weeks. The good news for Jeff is when he comes back, he's going to have more option plays to run now that Satterfield had to draw so many up in his absence. And for Heinrich, these first 2 weeks were great learning moments to help him understand the read and when to or when not to pitch it. We still got to see Sims handle the ball well and prove that he's who the coaches believe he is, but I feel really good knowing both these guys can run the ball as well as any other QB in the country. Next is special teams. They need more big plays, but how about Timmy Bleekrod converting on 4th and 4 with a 10-yard run up the middle to give Billy Kemp the chance to score just 2 plays later? That's a 4-point swing, and in a game where Nebraska only won by 14, that's a pretty significant difference. There was a drive in the second quarter when Harburg broke off a big run, and then a holding call brought it back and ultimately killed the series. Buschini came in to punt it from the 50, and he dropped it in at the 12-yard line on the sideline to give Smoke Harris as little room as possible to make a play, and if there wasn't a flag for illegal formation, Tech would have had to start the drive from their own 15. And later, he had 2 deep ones that forced them to start their drives at their own 5 and 10-yard lines. And can you guess how many points they scored after those punts? A big 0. Another highlight that Rhule talked about in his presser today is the fullback and tight end blocking. The O-line needed help, and we were all pumped to hear about the new ways they'd be using lead blockers, but the first few weeks started kind of slow. Now you've got Liebentritt and Lindenmeyer leading the way on off-tackle runs for Anthony Grant or Harburg on the option, and then multiple receivers who've improved as downfield blockers. There were some holding penalties on receivers that got big plays called back, but I think the important thing is that they're trying to make the big play, and they'll get the holding issues cleaned up over the next few weeks. If the run game's going to be successful, it's going to take Lindenmeyer, Liebentritt, Borkacher, and Fedoni to secure the edge and clear lanes, because the defenses coming up are only getting bigger and faster than what they've seen so far. And last on our good list is that the Big Ten West is wide open. I said the other day that it's not about winning the division, it's about surviving it. Minnesota went down to Northwestern, who's been the worst team in the West for 2 years now. Illinois took a major step back and barely beat FAU and Toledo at home. Iowa scored 0 on Penn State, and their defense is significantly worse than it's been in the past, so they can't just defense their way into wins. Purdue looked terrible against an average Wisconsin team, and Nebraska's got plenty of their own issues. Whoever wins the West is going to get beat down by Michigan, Penn State, or Ohio State and Indianapolis, but that doesn't matter. For Nebraska, surviving the West and coming out on top would mean everything, and if they can keep improving every week, they're going to be in the hunt till the end. I got to take a second to shout out our sponsor, characterchronicles.com, for sponsoring today's show and for being a great partner for us and for other creators in the Nebraska content space. Adam's new YouTube channel just hit 9,000 subscribers, and I want to help him get to 10K, so make sure you subscribe to his channel that I linked in the description box below, and head over to his website at characterchronicles.com for all of the content that he's featured in throughout the week. And I'm sending more merch orders out today, so if you want to support our show and pick up a sticker pack, t-shirt, or a hoodie, you can head over to corncraze.com and I'll mail out your orders this week. Now on to the bad. First, we got to talk about the special teams, because although they've shined in moments, they're still working through some issues. True freshman Tristan Alvano's been great in the extra point department, nailing all 12, but as a field goal kicker, he still needs some work. Notice I said he's a true freshman because it's not like he's had that much experience in these high-pressure situations. He's made one, missed 3, and none of them were anything crazy that were out of his range. His other issue was on kickoff when he booted one out of bounds, which is an auto penalty and gives the other team great field position. So he's just got to lock in and hopefully find some more success down the stretch, because they're going to need him to come through to win these close games. Also, giving up the kick return touchdown to Tech brought back the feelings I had during the Georgia Southern game, so you can imagine how happy I was to see it get called back. But yeah, those can't happen. Those are backbreakers, and they're terrible for an offense who already struggles to score. Another struggle is the passing game. Harburg's only completing 51%, and Sims is around 59%. It's not all on them since receivers have dropped quite a few, but that whole group is struggling. Sims has more upside, but he's also been a turnover machine with 4 interceptions in 2 games. Harburg's not that accurate on throws past 25 yards, but he's so cautious with the ball, the offense stays on the field and at least has a chance for some points. I would have never thought that Nebraska's number 1 receiver would only have 130 yards after 4 games and that their number 1 tight end would only be in the 80s, but that's where we are. Kemp and Fedoni are both getting worked into the game plan way better than they were after the first 2 weeks, and they're the obvious top 2 targets. But the question we all have is, which of these QBs can step up and make the throws to beat the better teams? Rhule'S betting on Sims, and hopefully he's right, because if not, Nebraska's best bet is to play more like Navy. And last is the O-line. Ben Hart's made a significant improvement. Ben Scott's been doing okay too, and the guards are good when they're not getting penalties for dumb mistakes. But there have been a lot of missed blocks and some slow pulls that result in guys getting through to blow plays up early. Is that a coaching issue or an execution issue? I don't know, but they got to tighten up to make sure QBs aren't taking unnecessary hits and Anthony Grant has a chance to make a play instead of getting beat down in the backfield. And now for the truth. Anthony Grant is Nebraska's most skilled back. Rhule wants to pound it and wear teams down, so he loved that Irvin had the size and the power to do it. But AG has good vision, decent power, and looks like a much more balanced running back compared to anybody else they've got on the roster. He's only fumbled once in his last 101 carries, and I'd bet that one fumble was so traumatizing that we aren't going to see one like that from him again in a while. The other question was, how would he hold up as a blocker, and we saw him make a great play to cover Harburg's backside this weekend to give him time to get the ball out to Fedoni for a TD. Not having depth hurts, but their number 1 guy is one of the best backs in the Big Ten. You know what I'm saying? This one's painful, but I'm going to say these QBs at their best are game managers. I know they have big playability, but they've both looked either okay or good against some really lousy defenses. The fear is, if you try to open it up too much or try to get some bigger plays out of them, the offense will have more turnovers. And the defense is so strong that a single interception could be the deciding factor in any of these Big Ten matchups. They'll probably try to keep the ball on the ground with some option plays, run Grant as much as they can without wearing him down, and then throw it short 15 times a game and maybe take a couple deep shots if they get a look for it. But the way you win with a game manager is to play great on D, punt to win, dominate time of possession, and limit your turnovers. Everything this team does always seems extreme, and the stat rankings are just another example. The rushing defense ranks number 1 nationally, but the passing D ranks 101. The rushing offense ranks 6th nationally, but the passing offense is 126th. And keep in mind, there are only 130 teams. The dominance on one side versus the complete disaster on the other is the best way to get exploited, and Michigan will be the first team to take full advantage. It's fun to be elite at one thing, but if you aren't at least serviceable all around, winning's going to be really hard against these Big Ten teams. I think the pass defense looks worse on paper than they actually are because of the situation at Colorado and the fact that they played down to their competition last week. But if they're only going to be good at stopping the run, they're going to get eaten alive by Purdue, Wisconsin, Illinois, and even Northwestern in these next few weeks. Another harsh truth is that injuries are going to start to become an issue. Both QBs are banged up, and I'd bet neither are at 100% to end the week. A starting receiver, a backup corner, and 2 running backs are already out for the year. Luke Reimer and Cam Lenhart were sidelined against Louisiana Tech, and who knows what else this team will have to deal with before the bye week. The problem with the depth is that so many of these guys in there are young, and young's okay, but the inexperience is what hurts. Schools like Nebraska are supposed to have the depth to be able to win late into the season, but this staff's still building their roster, so they just don't have it yet. It's year 1, and it's all about the build anyway, but it would sure suck to watch this team get so close and miss their ultimate goal, all because of injuries to their key contributors. And that brings us to our last truth, and that's that it's going to take a lot to get to a bowl game. You need Grant and at least one of these QBs to play in the next 6 games and to win 4 of them. The defense has to get tighter in the secondary to cut back on big plays because Illinois, Maryland, Purdue, Wisconsin, and Michigan State all have some really good receivers. And now that we know what the offense does well, so does everybody else. So will they be strong enough to fight through good game plans and execute on their assignments, or does the offense go back to struggling like they did against Minnesota and Colorado? And field goals, my God, are those going to be important. Alvano might have more pressure than anybody. Nebraska's notorious for losing 1-score games, and if you don't have a reliable kicker, winning those gets even harder. I'm not trying to bring the energy down or tell you that this team can't accomplish the goals they set out to, but it's good to understand all the strengths and the weaknesses so we know what we're watching for and, more importantly, who we're rooting for to get better. It always feels like we're the only fan base dealing with struggles, but I promise if you ask anybody from Iowa, Clemson, Notre Dame, Arkansas, or anywhere else that has equally high expectations, they'll give you their list of problems too. Nebraska's a big dog this weekend, but anything can happen in Memorial Stadium, so I'm not counting these guys out, and I'll get you my full preview and prediction by Wednesday. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comments below. Can the QBs keep dominating as runners, or are they going to have to start passing at some point? Will Anthony Grant keep pulling off 100-yard performances, or is he going to slow down against tougher competition? And if Nebraska was to go 3-3 into the bye, how would you feel about their chances at 6 wins? Right now, I'd probably say 3 wins going into the bye means that a bowl game's inevitable. But if they can't win at least one of these next 2, we might have to wait one more year. But that's all I've got for today. So until next time, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Big Red.